Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Vimal Singh and in this particular video we are going to prepare SC-401, Microsoft Certified Information Security Administrator Associate. And this session is not just going to be for exam point of view. It will also help you to understand this information security in better way, because we are not just going to explore the question and answer. Our focus point would be if any answer is correct, so why and what is the reason behind it, and if it is not correct, so why it is not correct. So that will give you the better understanding of the you can say product as well as the information security. So let's get started. Okay, let's see the first question. Here in this particular question, it asks you, you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription, and you need to create a custom trainable classifier named custom1. What is the minimum number of positive sample files required to create custom1? And the answer that you can see, we have 10, 50, 100, and 500. It's very simple question, but logical. If you have worked with the trainable classifier and while training, you must have seen those numbers available in your suggestions. So whenever we are creating a custom trainable classifier, we need to provide 50 positive samples, and you can say the documents, and also we need to provide 50 negative sample documents. When I say sample documents, that is the content that you want to be classify in your environment. So as per the ask, it is asking you the minimum number. So minimum will be 50. So the right answer is going to be 50. Let's explore what it has. As you can see, this is Microsoft official reference, and that reference also says the trainable classifier requires between 50 and 500 seat. So minimum is going to be 50 as per the ask. The right answer should be 50. That's the correct answer. Let's say the second question. Here you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription, and you plan to use the Microsoft Purview portal to create custom sensitive information type, which is SIT. The name should be SIT1. And you need to identify the SIT category that permits you to copy and modify an existing SIT and use the existing SIT as a template for SIT1. Which SIT category should you use? Built-in, bundled named entity, exact data match, and unbundled entity and named entity. This is a very tricky question. So as we know in Microsoft Purview, a sensitive information type can belong to several categories like built-in, or you will have exact data match, right? So, and it also has, you can say the type, entity type. Either it would be single entity type or bundled entity type. So if your goal is to copy an existing SIT and modify it, logically it sounds like we have to use unbundled named entity. But the ask is not the type or entity type. It is basically asking you the category. So as per the ask, the right answer should be built-in. Let's see what Microsoft says. So if I take the Microsoft reference, it says to create custom SIT, the built-in category is the only category that permits an existing SIT to be copied and modified to use as a template. Neither named identity, both bundled or unbundled, or nor EDM can be modified. You can take these references from there. So the right answer is going to be built-in. Okay, now let's see question number 3. Here you can see you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription, and you need to create a sensitive information type named SIT1, and that will use document fingerprinting. What should you use to create SIT1? The first option says PowerShell, Microsoft 365 Admin Center, or Microsoft Purview Portal. The second option, PowerShell only. Third, PowerShell or Microsoft Purview Portal. And the fourth, Microsoft PowerShell or Microsoft 365 Admin Center only. So if you remember, this document fingerprinting is a special type of custom sensitive information. In Microsoft Purview, basically it is designed to detect your, you can say document based, or you can say there is structure and content pattern on the basis of that it detects. And generally, when any advanced or complex configuration comes in our environment, we usually prefer the PowerShell, or you can say the advanced approach to do the administration. But that's not true always. In this particular case, we have both the options. We can create it through PowerShell as well as through Microsoft Purview portal. For example, if I take the Microsoft reference, this is one of the Microsoft document I have taken as a reference. As you can see, they have given you the example to how we are going to create this using the portal, and we also have the PowerShell CMD lint. So if I explore the Microsoft documents, this is the reference document, and if you read the content, it says the document fingerprinting SIT can be created by using PowerShell or by using Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal. This Admin Center, 365 Admin Center will not help you in this. So our right answer is going to be what? The third one, which says PowerShell or Microsoft Purview Portal. Yeah, that's the correct answer. Let's see the question number 4. Here it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription, then you plan to create a custom trainable classifier. Fine. What should you do first in the Microsoft Purview portal? That's the point. The first answer is create a custom sensitive information type, definitely. The second one is create an exact data match EDM classifier. This is not going to be the answer because it is talking about trainable classifier, so not for EDM. Next one is perform a content search of your company's Microsoft 365 content locations, and then perform a scan of your company's Microsoft 365 content location. Okay, so it seems like a tricky one because here it is asking what is the first step that I need to perform, and then it gave you the SIT. So some of you, or maybe most of you, have experience to create this trainable classifier. You must go to this Microsoft Purview portal, and from there you will start creating it from the SIT, but that's not the correct answer. The correct answer should be, we should have the content first. So content search and scan is a bit confusing. So let's understand this part. So in Microsoft Purview, the content search is an e-discovery tool, and that helps you to find the specific item in your organization by using your keywords or the conditions. But on the other hand, we have a scan. So it's an underlying process when Purview data classification actively identifies and classifies sensitive data using your trainable classifier. We should use content search to investigate specific cases, but you really rely on scans and you can say trainable classifier to automatically detect and protect your sensitive data. Even I'll go and explore the Microsoft document. What it says, to create trainable classifier, you must first perform a scan of your company's Microsoft 365 content location, and one time must be performed. So as you can see, a one-time scan must be completed before creating any custom trainable classifier. That you can consider as a best practice as well. So the right answer should be what? Perform a scan of your company's Microsoft 365 content location. And there we go. That's the right answer. Okay, so let's explore question number 5. And here you can see again, we have Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. And you plan to use the Microsoft Purview portal to create a trainable classifier. Fine. You need to collect data sample to be used for seeding the trainable classifier. And what is the minimum number of positive samples required to train the classifier? No need to put a lot of effort at this place. We already talked about it. Minimum positive, you can say seed, that how many we can provide, and what should be the minimum negative, right? So the answer should be 50. It's very simple and straightforward. Let's explore the Microsoft document, and it says the minimum number of positive data samples required for seeding when implementing a trainable classifier in Microsoft Purview is 50. Very simple and straightforward. And the right answer should be 50. Now let's see question number 6, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription and you have the following files. We have file 1, that's a doc, file 2 docs, file 3 PPTX, and file 4 PDF. You need to create a custom trainable classifier named custom 1. And which file can you use to use as a seed content for custom 1? Okay. File 1 doc and file 2 docs only, or file 1 doc, file 2 docs, and file 3 PPTX only, file 1 doc, file 2 docs, file 3 PPTX, and file 4 PDF, or file 2 DOCX and file 3 PPTX only, or file 2 docs only. Okay. So let's understand this question. For custom trainable classifier in Microsoft Purview, you can use, you can say, Word files. It doesn't matter, it's a DOC or DOCX. You can use even PowerPoint files. Again, doesn't matter, it's a PPT or PPTX. Or you can have even PDF files. You can also include the TXT file. In fact, you will have email messages, either MSG or EML with the EML extension. Because here in this question, we have almost all the options: DOC, DOCX, PPTX, and PDF. So the right answer should be DOC, DOCX, PPT, and PDF. Number 3, C. Let's see what Microsoft says. So it says, while means when creating a trainable classifier, you can use seed content, many different formats, including Word document, both extension, PowerPoint file with the PPTX extension, and portable documents format with the PDF extension. That is fine. So all are supported. So Docs1, DOCX, and everything. Okay. That's great. Simple and straightforward. Okay, let's see the question number 7, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 subscription that contains user named user1. Okay. User1 plans to use the Microsoft Purview portal to create trainable classifier. Fine. You need to assign the user1 to role. User1, a role that provides sufficient permission to train a trainable classifier, and the solution must follow the principle of least privilege. Okay. Which role should you assign to the user? Compliance administrator? Can be. Compliance data administrator? Can be. Global administrator? Can be. Security administrator? Can be. So what should we think? So the key point in this particular ask is what? We must follow the principle of least privilege. So if I think about the compliance data administrator and security administrator role, that can be used to use trainable classifiers in sensitivity level policies. The global administrator role includes the permissions required to train trainable classifiers as well, but it also includes a number of other permissions. So using it violates the principle of least privilege. So if I talk about the minimum as per the ask, then it should be compliance administrator. So this is the Microsoft reference document. You can go and explore. You definitely will find the compliance administrator role is the minimum one that we can assign for this scenario. So the right answer is going to be compliance administrator. Let's see question number 8, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 subscription that contains a user named user1, and user1 plans to use the Microsoft Purview portal to create sensitivity labels. You need to add user1 to a role group that will provide sufficient permission to create security labels, and the solution must follow the least privilege principle. Okay. Which role group should you use? Information protection admins, information protection analysts, or information protection investigators? We have to follow the least privilege, and what we need? Sufficient permission to create sensitivity labels. Okay. So to create sensitivity label in Microsoft Purview, we need a permission that allow managing sensitivity labels, label policy, and publishing them. That's the 3 major point we have. So the information protection admin role group is basically designed exactly for this. That will allow you to create and configure the sensitivity label and also help you to publish the labels through the label policies. It doesn't give unnecessary permission like investigating or analyst. So right answer should be information protection admins. But why this information protection analyst, or you can say information protection investigator or not? Because information protection, you can say that's a broad that includes more role, and you can say the more permission. So we have to follow the least privilege, so we are not going to think about information protection. If I talk about information protection analyst, it has only read permission or analyst permission on the labels, not to create it. And information protection investigator, as it sounds, that is not involved in the creation role, right? So definitely it's not related. So this is not going to be the right answer. So the right answer is going to be information protection admins. If I check the Microsoft provided documentation, so it says the list privilege built-in role group with the privilege to create sensitivity level is information protection admins. So the right answer is going to be information protection admins. Okay, let's see question number 9, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription that contains the following resources. We have group 1, that is Microsoft 365 group. We have site 1, which is Microsoft SharePoint online site. We have mailbox 1, which is Microsoft Exchange online mailbox. And we have sensitivity 1, which is sensitivity label. We need to publish this sensitivity 1. And to which location can you publish the sensitivity 1? All these location we have, the sensitivity has to be published any of this location or all of this location. That is the ask. So we can publish that sensitivity to group 1 only, or maybe group 1, site 1 and mailbox 1, or site 1 and mailbox only, or site only. So let's understand and try to recall the point from your experience, what you have done and what you have to do to apply or publish the sensitivity label. So whenever we are publishing a sensitivity label, the only available location is users and groups. So the sensitivity level can be published to users, distribution groups, and mail-enabled security group. Also, it can be published to the Microsoft 365 groups. Unlike this retention labels, which are published to locations such as Exchange mailboxes, so sensitivity labels are published to users or groups only. Apps that support sensitivity labels can then display them to those users and groups as applied labels, or as labels that user can apply. So the right answer should be group only. So group 1 only will be there, not to site, not to mailbox. And the reference you can take it from here. Okay, let's see question number 10, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription that contains a Microsoft SharePoint online site named Site 1. From the Microsoft Purview portal, you review the sensitivity level which are displayed in the following order: customer data, human resource, employees, human resource salary, and research. And the research contains two sub-labels, which is research external and research internal. Now the ask is, you plan to publish multiple auto labeling policy to apply each label. Okay. You need to identify which label will apply to items that are in the scope of all the auto labeling policy. Which sensitivity level should you identify? All the labels, or customer data only, or research only, or research internal only? Okay, that is very tricky question, bit confusing. So if you remember, when it comes to auto labeling policy, and if you have multiple condition match, the label with the highest order will get applied. Now question comes, how the highest order? So the first one will have the highest order, or how this highest order works in Microsoft Purview. So in Microsoft Purview, especially in sensitivity label, whoever falls the last is having the highest order. In our case, because it has again two sub-label, research external and research internal, so research internal will get applied. Again, that is the last one. So as per that one standard logic, it's very simple but very tricky. So because this falls at the last, and Microsoft says whatever falls last will have the highest priority. So research, and because it's a sub-label, so research internal. So right answer should be research internal only. Let's see what Microsoft says. Here it says, when implementing auto labeling policy, if multiple condition match, the label with the highest order, which is the last one on the list, is applied. And in this scenario, it also says this is the research internal label. In this case, sub-labels, the parent label is not used at all. So instead of the sub-label with the highest order number is selected, and that will be your research internal. So right answer is going to be research internal only. Okay, let's understand question number 11. And here it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You plan to use the Microsoft Purview portal to create sensitivity labels and make them available to users for assignment. You need to identify two types of object to which you can publish the sensitivity labels. And which two objects should you identify? Exchange mailboxes, Microsoft Entra groups, Microsoft Entra users, OneDrive accounts, and SharePoint sites. It's very simple. You just need to recall the point the moment you create this sensitivity labels. So when you publish the sensitivity label in the Microsoft Purview, you make them available to whom? To the users by selecting Microsoft Entra ID users or groups. And this is the standard method for deploying labels to end users. Why? So the publishing process requires you to choose which user or group should have access to the labels. And that gives the control who can see and apply the labels in the applications like Office 365, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, SharePoint, or OneDrive. So basically you create a label policy and assign it to the specific Entra ID users or groups. And the label then become available to those users in the applications. So the right answer is going to be what? Microsoft Entra groups and Microsoft Entra users. Why not this Exchange mailbox, OneDrive site and SharePoint site? Because while labels can be applied to content in Exchange mailboxes, also OneDrive, SharePoint site, but you do not publish the label directly to these objects. Instead, you publish it to the user groups, and those users can then apply those labels into the specified locations, not directly to the locations. Even if I'll go and explore the Microsoft reference document, it says unlike retention labels, which can be published to locations such as Exchange and mailboxes, SharePoint site or OneDrive accounts, sensitivity labels are published to user or groups. So the right answer is going to be Microsoft Entra users and Microsoft Entra groups. Okay, let's see question number 12. And here it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription and you plan to use Microsoft Purview Advanced Message Encryption. You need to ensure that sent email messages expire after 10 days. And what should you use? A custom branded template or a data loss prevention policy or a mail flow rule or an information barriers policy or X509 V3 certificate. Okay, so let's understand this question. Microsoft Purview Advanced Message Encryption is the ask, right? Advanced Message Encryption. This is the plan. And we need to make sure this message will expire after 10 days. So basically this Microsoft Purview Advanced Message Encryption will allow us to create custom branded template. And there we are going to define additional encryption controls, including the expiration setting or encrypted emails. So we can configure a template that set an expiration date for encrypted messages as per the ask, because ask is for 10 days. So we can set it here for 10 days. When we apply this template to an email, either using the mail flow rule or DLP policy, the message will expire after that specified time and recipient will no longer be able to access it. We can create the template in the Microsoft Purview portal under this encryption advanced message encryption option and set the expiration period. Then you use an email flow rule or the DLP policy to apply this template to messages that meet certain condition. So the right answer should be what? A custom branded template. Why not these other options? While DLP can trigger encryption, it does not directly control expiration. Instead, DLP can be used to apply a template that includes expiration. If I talk about mail flow rule, so similar to DLP, a mail flow rule can apply to a template that set expiration, but the expiration itself is configured in the template, not in a mail flow rule. If I talk about information barriers, so this is for restricting communication between groups, not for message expiration. And the last X509 V3 certificate, this is related to cryptography function, but not for setting expiration in advanced message encryption. So the right answer will be what? Custom branded template. Let's see what Microsoft says for this. In a reference of Microsoft, you can use a message encryption expiration on email sent to external recipient who use the OME portal to access encrypted emails, and you can force a recipient to use the OME portal to view and reply the encrypted emails sent by your organization by using the custom branded template. So as per our logic and the Microsoft reference, right answer is going to be a custom branded template. Let's talk about question number 13, where it says you have Microsoft 365 E5 subscription and you need to verify that Microsoft Purview Advanced Message Encryption is configured properly. Which Microsoft Exchange Online PowerShell CM delete should you run? Test IRM configuration, test M365 data at rest encryption policy, test mail flow, and test Outlook web services. The primary two thing is what advanced message encryption, and we need to look for Exchange Online PowerShell CMD late. So to verify that Microsoft Purview advanced message encryption, which leverage the Azure Write Management Service, is configured properly in Exchange Online, and you should execute what command. So the nearest answer seems so far the test IRC configuration, because this CMD let test the information right management configuration for Exchange Online, since this advanced message encryption is built on top of IRM. So this CMD let checks the functionality and connectivity required for encryption, including the ability to encrypt, decrypt, and apply templates. It also validates the services is properly integrated and operational or not. If I talk about other CM deletes, which is M365, Mailflow, and Outlook web services. So this test M365 data at rest encryption policy, this is not a standard CM delete and does not exist in Exchange Online PowerShell. If I talk about test Mailflow, this is basically test mail flow between servers and the connectors, not encryption configuration. And if I talk about test Outlook web services, this basically tests the connectivity to Outlook web services, not encryption. You can do auto discovery, but not encryption. So the right answer is test IRM configuration. Let's see what Microsoft says officially. So here it clearly says to verify whether Microsoft Purview Advanced Message Encryption is configured properly, you must run the test IRC configuration CM delete. So here we go. That's the right answer. Let's explore question number 14, where it says your organization uses Microsoft Purview Message Encryption to protect email, and you need to confirm that the encryption service is active and ready to use in your Microsoft 365 tenant. What should you do? Activate Azure Rights Management manually, create custom encryption templates, run the get IRM configuration CM delete, and configure mail flow running to apply rules to apply the encrypt only template. So what is asked? You need to confirm that encryption service is active and ready to use. We have to get this information. As per the logic, this seems correct because it provides detailed information about the configuration and operational state of Azure RMS. Creating custom RMS template doesn't address the verification of Azure RMS configuration, as templates are used for defining specific rights and permission rather than checking system status. Activating Azure Right Management manually is unnecessary if Azure RMS is already active, making this action redundant. Updating mail flow rules to use encryption only doesn't verify the configuration of Azure RMS, as it focuses on applying encryption policy rather than confirming the system's, you can say, operational readiness. So the right answer is going to be run the get IRM configuration CM deletes. Perfect. Okay, let's see question number 14, where it says your organization uses Microsoft Purview Advanced Message Encryption to secure sensitivity emails. An external recipient access encrypted email through the various methods. You need to ensure all external recipient open encrypted emails in the Microsoft 365 Message Encryption portal. What should you do? And the answer is control attachment encryption behavior in the mail flow rules. Create a mail flow rule that applies encryption with a custom branding template. Disable one-time passcode and enable the encrypt button in Outlook for all users. So control attachment decryption behavior affects how attachments are handled but does not enforce the use of the encrypted message portal. Disable one-time passcode, if I talk, that changes the authentication method but does not enforce the use of the encrypted message portal. And enable the encrypt button in Outlook for all users. Again, to encrypt emails, that will be easy, but it does not, you can say again, enforce the use of encrypted mail portal. So if the three are not correct, it means the fourth one, this option is going to be correct one. So the right answer as per the ask and as per the given options should be create a mail flow rule that applies encryption with the custom branding template. Let's see, that's the reference. You can explore this information from this given URL, and that's the correct answer. Okay, so let's explore question number 16. And here it says, your company uses Microsoft Purview message encryption to secure email communication, and you need to prevent unauthorized access to encrypted emails and retain the ability to revoke access. What should you do? Advanced message encryption, Defender for Cloud App, and double key encryption, or sensitivity levels. Double key encryption eliminates, or you can say that enhance the security but doesn't allow for revocation of access to encrypted emails. Defender for Cloud Apps is focused on monitoring cloud activity and does not address the email encryption or access revocation. If I talk about advanced message encryption, is appropriate solution as it enables revocation of access to encrypted emails, ensuring control over sensitive information. And if I talk about sensitivity levels, that sensitivity level can encrypt email but do not provide the ability to revoke access after the email is sent. So the right answer should be what? Advanced message encryption. Even here is the reference of Microsoft document. You can explore this information from this given link, and right answer, as we discussed, is going to be advanced message encryption. Let's explore question number 17, where it says your company use Microsoft Purview information protection to manage sensitivity information. You need to automatically label and encrypt sensitivity file in network shares. And each correct answer presents part of the solution. Which two actions should you take? Choose two. We have to pick two. So to automatically label and encrypt sensitivity files in network share using Microsoft Purview information protection, what we should do? So the Microsoft Purview information protection scanner, earlier it was known as AIPS scanner, is an on-premises service that scans network share, SharePoint server sites, and local files stores for sensitive information, and it can automatically apply sensitivity level, which includes encryption to file based on the policies. To set this up, what we need to do after deploying this scanner, you need to configure the content scan job in the Microsoft Purview portal, and this job defines the repositories to be scanned and the policy to be enforced, and the scanner will then automatically discover labels and protect files in those locations. The other options are not you can say correct. If I talk about DLP policy for the file shares, so while data loss prevention policy can monitor and protect data in file shares, they are not primarily used for automatically applying sensitivity labels and encryption. DLP focuses on preventing data exfiltration rather than labeling and encrypting file at rest. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Device Policy. This is for endpoint security and the threat protection, not for labeling and encrypting the files in network share. So the right answer going to be deploy the Purview scanner and set up a content scan job. Let's explore the Microsoft reference. Here it says to automatically label and encrypt sensitivity file in the network share, deploying the Purview scanner is essential as it discovers, label and encrypts files and data store in a data store. Setting up content scan job is also necessary to define the scope and criteria for applying sensitivity labels. So right answer is going to be what? Deploy the Purview scanner and set up a content scan job. Let's see question number 18, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 portal, subscription. You have a Microsoft Purview Insider Risk case. And from the Microsoft Purview portal, you select the escalate for investigation action for the case. Which setting in the Microsoft Purview portal should you use to review the newly escalated case? Communication compliance, e-discovery, information barriers, or insider risk management. So when we escalate an insider risk case for investigation in the Microsoft Purview portal, the case is transferred to e-discovery for further analysis. And this e-discovery is going to be premium e-discovery. So the escalate of investigation action in insider risk management automatically creates a new case in e-discovery, and this allows investigator to use advanced e-discovery tool to collect, preserve, and analyze relevant data such as emails, documents, and other content which is related to that case. That e-discovery provides comprehensive capability for legal and investigative scenarios. including data collection from multiple sources like Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. And it also allows to do advanced analytics and review sets. Export option for further processing. So the correct option seems e-discovery. But we have communication compliance, information barriers, insider risk management. Let's understand about that only. That also, if I talk about communication compliance, this is used to detect inappropriate or you can say sensitive communication between communication, but it is not the destination for escalated insider risk cases. The information barriers, these are policies to restrict communication between groups within an organization, like to prevent conflicts of interest, not for reviewing escalated cases. And insider risk management, this is where the case originated. But after escalation, it moves to e-discovery for deeper investigation. So the right answer should be what? E-discovery. Let's see what Microsoft says about it. So after the insider risk management, cases escalated to a new user investigation case, you can review the new case by selecting e-discovery and advance in the Microsoft Purview portal. So now it's clear the answer should be e-discovery. Okay, let's explore question number 19. Here it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You need to implement an automated task that will run in response to a Microsoft Purview Insider risk case. The solution must minimize implementation effort. What should you use to create the automated task? A Microsoft Power Automate flow, a Microsoft Sentinel playbook, an Azure automation account, or an Azure Logic app. So to implement an automated task that runs in response to Microsoft Purview Insider Risk case with minimal effort, you should use Microsoft Power Automate. This Power Automate is integrated with Microsoft Purview and provides pre-built template and connectors, especially for insider risk management. You can easily create a flow that triggers automatically when an insider risk case is created or updated. This requires minimal coding or configuration effort. For example, if you can set up a flow to send notification on emails or the team masses when a case is escalated, we can create a task in Planner or Azure DevOps. We can also update records in other systems. So automate workflow seems, the right answer. But if I talk about other options like a Microsoft Sentinel playbook, so while Sentinel can automate responses to security alerts, it is not directly integrated with Microsoft Purview Insider risk cases and would require more setup efforts to get it configured with it. The second one is an Azure automation account. This is used for scripting and runbook automation, but lacks the native connectors and low code simplicity for you can say Purview integrations. And if I talk about Azure Logic app, similar to this Power Automate, the technically underprinted, but Power Automate is more user friendly and directly integrated with Microsoft 365 services, including Purview. So it minimizes the effort with a you can say user um, experience and the templates. So the right answer as per the ask is going to be Microsoft Power Automate flow. Let's see what Microsoft talks about this. And here's the reference of Microsoft towards this question. It says Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management integrates directly with the Power Automate. So now the answer is what? A Microsoft Power Automate flow. Let's see question number 20, where it says we have Microsoft 365 UI subscription and that contains following devices. We have device 1, Windows 11, device 2, Windows 10, device 3, Android, and device 4, Mac OS. You plan to implement Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management and capture forensic evidence. From which devices can forensic evidence be collected? Device 1, device 2 only, or device 1, device 4 only, device 1 only, device 1, 2, 4, device 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management can collect forensic evidences. And when I say forensic evidences, it can be your file, or you can say file activity, print activity, clipboard activity, right? That will be collected from the Windows device only. And if I talk in our scenario, we have device 1 and 2, which has Windows devices, because device 3 has Android and device 4 has Mac operating system. So it becomes very simple and straightforward. The answer is going to be what? Device 1 and device 2 only. The question seems and looks big, but it's very simple and straightforward. So if I talk about Microsoft reference document, it says supported platform for insider risk management forensic evidence are what? Only Windows 10 Enterprise and Windows 11 Enterprise. Other than that are not supported. So very simple, Android and Mac OS eliminated, only device and 1 and 2 is going to be the right answer. Let's explore question number 21. You have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You are a member of the Insider Risk Management Admins role group. You configure an Insider Risk Management forensic evidence policy that targets devices onboarded to Microsoft Purview. And you review the approved users tab in the Insider Risk Management setting of the Microsoft Purview portal and discover that tab does not list any user account names. So you need to ensure that the evidence is captured according to the policy configuration. And what should you do first in the Microsoft Purview portal? What should you do first? That's the key point. Add your account to the Insider Risk Management Auditors role group. Add your account to the Insider Risk Management Investigators role group. Approve a forensic evidence request or create a forensic evidence request. So to capture forensic evidence for insider risk management, you must first create a forensic evidence request in the Microsoft Purview. Why? Because the approved users tab in the insider risk management setting list users whose devices are approved for forensic data collection. However, this list is populated only after you create a forensic evidence request and approve it. And if I talk about the steps that will help you to enable forensic evidence in, you can say, evidence collection, for that first we need to create a forensic evidence request. Then we are going to approve the request, and after that, once it is approved, the user appears in the approved users list tab. The answer should be create a forensic evidence request. But if I talk about other options, let's see. The other option, add your account to the insider risk management auditor role. So in that case, adding your account to the insider risk management auditor or investigator role group grant permission to view or investigate cases, but does not initiate forensic evidence collection. Approving a request is necessary, but you must first create the request to approve it. So the right answer is going to be what? Create a forensic evidence request. Let's explore Microsoft reference. This is the link, and from where you can explore the evidences related to this question. And as per our logic and discussion, this is going to be the correct answer. Create a forensic evidence request. Question number 22. You have implemented Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management to monitor and mitigate potential data exfiltration risk. You need to configure adaptive protection setting in Microsoft Purview to restrict users with elevated risk levels from sharing sensitivity content externally while auditing moderate risk users for such activities. What should you do? Create separate Microsoft Purview DLP policy. One, the block external sharing for elevated risk users, and other, to audit moderate risk users. Enable notification for all users about potential violation in Microsoft Purview. Set up a single DLP policy in Microsoft Purview to block external sharing for all users, or use conditional access policy in Microsoft 365 to block access for all users. Okay. So this is the ask for adaptive protection settings in Microsoft Purview. So if I talk about adaptive protection in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management, that allows you to dynamically apply data loss prevention policy based on the user risk level. And to achieve this goal, first for, you can say, elevated risk users, we need to create a DLP policy that blocks external sharing of sensitive content. And this policy should be triggered when a user is assigned a high risk level by insider risk management. For moderate risk users, we can create a separate DLP policy that only audits you can say external sharing for sensitive content, and this policy should be triggered when a user is assigned a moderate risk label. And this approach basically leverages the integration between insider risk management and the DLP, where risk labels from insider risk management can be used as conditions in DLP policy, and this ensures the tailored response based on the severity of the risk. And if I talk about the other options like enable notification for all users, and this does not restrict or audit sharing based on risk labels, it's only informs users. Set up a DLP policy to block external sharing for all users. This is not granular and would block sharing for all users regardless of risk labels. And this conditional access policy access to applications and resources but does not especially restrict external sharing of sensitive content based on the insider risk management risk labels. So the right answer should be create separate Microsoft Purview DLP policy, one to block external sharing for elevated risk users and another to audit moderate risk users. So that is going to be the correct answer. Okay, let's see question number 23. Here it says your organization recently experienced an incident involving the exposure of confidential files from a SharePoint site. You need to configure a Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management policy to address activities related to this SharePoint site and improve risk detection. Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Which three actions should you take? Choose three. And the options are add the SharePoint site as priority content, rely on default indicators instead of enabling exfiltration detection, enable activity sequence detection, limit detection to non-office file types only, and create a policy using the data leak template. Okay. So to configure this Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management policy, to address activities related to the SharePoint site and improve risk detection, we should, I think, use a SharePoint site as a priority content. So the first thing, we are going to add the SharePoint site as priority content, because the priority content allow you to specify sensitive locations like SharePoint site where the incidents occurred. That should be monitored more closely. And this helps insider risk management focus on high value data and increase the sensitivity of risk detection for activities involving to that particular site. Then we need to enable activity sequence detection. So activity sequence detection helps to identify you can say the risky patterns that involves multiple steps like downloading files from the SharePoint site, then sharing them externally. And this is crucial for detecting exfiltration attempts that might not be caught by looking at single activities alone, because that's our primary ask. And creating this data leak policy, the data leak template is especially designed to detect and alert to on activities that could lead to data exfiltration, such as unauthorized sharing or downloading of you can say sensitive files. So this template is well suited for the addressing the incident involving exposure of confidential files. If I talk about rely on default indicators, so instead of enabling exfiltration detection, default indicators are useful. But to improve detection for a specific incident, you should enable exfiltration detection, which data leak can do for you. So right answer should be, as we discussed, the first, add a SharePoint site as a priority content, enable activity sequence detection, and create a policy using the data leaks. Let's see what Microsoft says. Microsoft has given you a link. That link you can explore and understand how actually this, you can say, management of insider risk management will work as per this scenario. So as discussed, right answer, add the SharePoint site as priority content, enable activity sequence detection, and configure the policy using data leak template. Okay, let's see question number 24, where it says your organization uses Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management to monitor high risk users, and you need to configure the Microsoft Purview to apply Microsoft data loss prevention controls dynamically based on user risk labels. And each correct answer presents part of the solution. Which two actions should you perform? Choose two. Create a policy using the departing user theft template, disable forensic evidence capturing, enable adaptive protection, exclude priority users from DLP policies, and configure DLP policy with user risk labels as a condition. So to dynamically apply Microsoft data loss prevention control based on user risk label, we should perform two actions. What? Enable adaptive protection, I believe, and configure DLP policy. Okay, but before finalizing the answer, let's understand it. So to enable adaptive protection, as we know, it's a feature in Microsoft Purview inside the risk management, and that will allow us to link inside the risk label to DLP. So when it is enabled, it provides you dynamic risk-based condition that can be used in DLP policy to apply stricter controls like block access for user with higher risk labels and more, you can say, lenient controls for lower risk labels. And then we can configure the DLP policy with the user risk labels as a condition. So after enabling adaptive protection, we must create or modify our DLP policy, and that on the basis of the user risk labels, as that will be as a condition. So this condition allows the DLP policy to trigger actions like block external sharing based on the risk level assigned to the user by insider risk management. For example, for high risk user, block external sharing for sensitive content. For moderate user risk, moderate risk users, only audit external sharing. So the other option, if I talk, like create a policy using a departing user template. Uh, this template is for detecting draft or detecting data theft by departing employees, but it does not directly enable dynamic DLP controls based on ongoing risk labels. If I talk about disable forensic evidence capturing, so this would reduce visibility into user activities and harm risk detection, making it harder to assign accurate risk label, not as per our requirement. And if I talk about exclude priority user from DLP policies, so this would weaken protection for I would say, high risk users, which is the opposite of what adaptive protection aims to achieve. Right answer should be, as we discussed, well, adaptive protection and then configure DLP policy with user risk level as condition. Let's see what Microsoft says. So even from the Microsoft document, it says to dynamically apply Microsoft DLP controls to high risk users, enabling adaptive protection is essential as it automates the application of controls based on the risk level. Then sharing inside a risk level with Microsoft Defender and Microsoft DLP ensures effective integration and targeted control application using unrelated templates for disabling forensic evidences capturing does not okay. So as we discussed, the right answer is going to be this too, even from the Microsoft document reference side. Okay, let's explore 25. Question number 25. Your organization uses Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management to monitor inside threats, and you need to integrate endpoint activity signals from Microsoft Defender for endpoint into insider risk management. And each correct answer presents part of the solution. Which two actions should you perform? The first one, assign the security reader role. If I talk about this security reader role, this role grants read-only access to the sensitive information but does not enable integration between Defender for endpoint and insider risk management. If I talk about create a data loss prevention policy, so DLP policy are for preventing data exfiltration but do not directly integrate endpoint signals into insider risk management. So that is also not the correct one. If I talk about enable advanced feature in Microsoft Defender for correct, that seems correct. So that in the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint portal, you must enable this advanced feature to allow your data sharing with other Microsoft services, including your Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. And this ensures that endpoint detection and response signals are available for insider risk management. If I talk about enable anonymization, and that is basically protects your privacy by hiding usernames but does not enable data sharing between services. So again, this is not going to be answered. The final one is enable risk data sharing in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. So logically, this is going to be correct if out of 4, 3 out of 5, three are incorrect. So definitely this one is going to be right one. But let's understand why this one. Enable risk data sharing in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. In the Insider Risk Management setting of Purview portal, you need to enable this option to share risk data with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And this creates a bi-directional integration which allow insider risk management to receive endpoint activity signals and from here to there, like file copy, print, clipboard evidence from Defender for endpoints. So the right answer is going to be this two. As we discussed, enable first advanced feature in the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and then enable risk data sharing in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. That's the link from where you can explore the, you can say, reference, which is given by Microsoft. And as discussed, this is going to be the right answer. Okay, let's see question number 26, where it says you have Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. Okay, you plan to use Activity Explorer to review endpoint data loss prevention activities in the subscription. What is the largest time window for which you can display activities in Activity Explorer? So the Activity Explorer in Microsoft Purview allows you to view and analyze data loss prevention. That I believe everyone is familiar with it. So including those from Endpoint DLP, however, the time window for displaying activity is limited. The maximum retention period of activities in Activity Explorer is 30 days. And this means you can filter and view events that occurred within the last 30 days only. This limitation applies regardless of the subscription type. Doesn't matter you have 365 E5 or any other. And the type of DLP activity also doesn't matter. It's a cloud, on premises, or endpoint. The other option that you can see 7 days, 14 days, 91 days are incorrect because they do not align with the configured retention limit for Activity Explorer. So the right answer is going to be what? 30 days. Let's see what Microsoft says about this. So here Microsoft references the largest time window for which you can display activities in Activity Explorer is 30 days. And the right answer is 30 days. Okay, let's explore question number 27. You have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription that contains multiple data loss prevention, and you need to review DLP policy matches event for the subscription. What should you do? Activity Explorer, Compliance Manager, Content Explorer, or eDiscovery. So to review data loss prevention policy events, or you can say matches event, you must use Activity Explorer. That is very simple and a straightforward rule. So in Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, we do get this Activity Explorer. Why? That Activity Explorer provides a centralized view of all DLP activities, including when a DLP policy matches content, the action which DLP policy has been taken, blocked or allowed, even the details about the matches content, location and user involved. And it allows you to filter and analyze events in the near real time. That makes it ideal for monitoring and troubleshooting your DLP policy matches. The Compliance Manager, Content Explorer, eDiscovery, that is not correct as per this question, because Compliance Manager is the tool that helps to manage regulatory compliance and you can say assesses compliance secrets, but does not show DLP policy match event. The Content Explorer, this is used to view the actual content that matches DLP policies or sensitive information type, but it does not provide a log of events or matches over time. And if I talk about eDiscovery, this is for a legal and investigation purpose, to search the things, collect and export the content, not for monitoring DLP policy matches. So the right answer is going to be Activity Explorer. Let's see what Microsoft says about it. So here even Microsoft says Activity Explorer gathers DLP policy matches events from Microsoft Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, OneDrive, Teams Chat, and Channel, even on-premises SharePoint server folder and libraries. So the right answer would be Activity Explorer. Let's explore question number 28, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription that contains a user named user1. You plan to grant user1 permission to use Activity Explorer to view endpoint data loss prevention activities in the subscription. The solution must follow the principle of least privilege. Which role should you assign to user1? Information protection admin, information protection analyst, information protection investigator, information protection reader. So to grant user one permission to use Activity Explorer to view endpoint DLP activities while following the principle of least privilege, you should assign the information protection reader role. Right. This should be the right answer. Because the information protection reader role allows users to view DLP alerts and events in Activity Explorer. It also helps you to read DLP policies and reports, accesses metadata and sensitive information types and labels. So this role provides read-only access to the DLP related information, which is sufficient for viewing activities without allowing any configuration changes. And our ask is what? List privilege. The other option, if I talk about information protection admins, protection analyst, and investigator, definitely doesn't follow the ask, which is list privilege. So, because information protection admin, as it sounds, allows full management of the DLP policy, labels, and settings. Information protection analyst basically allows viewing DLP alerts and investigation cases, but also includes permission to override policy matches. That is not our ask. And information protection investigators, similar to the analyst, but with conditional permissions to access content in a content explorer. Again, it's more than the ask. So the right answer should be information protection reader. Let's see. Oh, that's the correct answer. Okay, let's explore question number 29. And here it says you have a Microsoft 365 subscription and a hybrid Microsoft Exchange deployment that contains the following users. User 1 has an on-premises mailbox. User 2 has a cloud mailbox. Okay. Both users use Exchange Online and Microsoft Teams. You create a content search named search1 that is configured to search all available locations. Which data is included in search1? User 1 emails? No, because, okay, first we need to understand in this question. So as you can see, this scenario is for hybrid, right? So you must have understanding and you explored it in hybrid exchange deployment. Content search in Microsoft Purview has a specific limitation regarding on-premises mailbox. Cloud mailbox, all data from Exchange Online, emails, and Microsoft Teams chat data is searchable because it resides in the cloud. But for on-premises mailbox, you can say content search cannot directly search on on-premises mailbox. To include on-premises mailbox data, we have to integrate some other like e-discovery, hold, and such things. But that's not given in this particular question. So we have to stick with the given information. Here it says just we have on-premises mailbox. Nowhere it has mentioned that you have any other option to go and extend the search for on-premises. Okay, then it asks, okay, what are the options will be included in search one if the search one is available for all the locations. So if I talk about user one, their mailboxes related information cannot be searched, and because nowhere has mentioned the user teams data is kept on premises or where, so by default we are considering the user one teams data would be available publicly and searchable. Only the mailbox of user one won't be there. So if I talk user one email, no, that's incorrect because on premises user one email is in on premises. User one emails, no, this is not correct. User one teams chat data, that makes sense. User two emails, that also makes sense. User two teams chat data, okay, that is correct because all these three can be searchable. User two emails and user team chat data only. No, that's not correct. This is possible, but it includes only user two because our search says it includes Microsoft Teams as well and all the locations. So user one has Teams data that can be searchable. So the right answer should be user one Teams chat data, user two emails, and user two Teams chat data only. If I explore Microsoft reference, here it says in Exchange hybrid deployment, you cannot use the content search tool to search emails in on-premises mailboxes. You can only use tool search cloud-based mailboxes. Fine. So the right answer should be this. And yes, this is. Okay, let's explore question number 30. And here it says you have a Microsoft 365 subscription that contains a user named admin1. And you need to ensure that admin1 can configure content search permission filtering. The solution must follow the principle of least privilege. To which Microsoft Purview role should you add admin1? That's very simple and straightforward. Because to run the compliance security filter CM deletes, you have to be a member of the organization management role group. So that is the right answer, organization management. If I explore the Microsoft reference where it says content search permission filtering is configured by using the new compliance security filter and set compliance security CM delete. To run this compliance security filter, you must be a member of organization management role group. That's the reference link. You can go and verify that from there. So the right answer is going to be organization management. The question number 31, here it says you have Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. A user named user1 is assigned a Microsoft 365 E5 license. You create the following audit retention policies. Audit 1 says priority 10, no activity is specified, apply to user 1, duration is for 6 months. Audit 2, priority 20, site renamed activity, no user specified, duration 90 days. And audit 3, we have priority 30, site renamed uh, activity, apply to user 1, and duration is for 10 years. That user 1 renames a Microsoft SharePoint online site. How long is the site renaming action for user 1 retained in the audit log? Okay. So in Microsoft 365 E5 license provides a default retention for 1 year, which is 365 days. If there is a custom audit retention policy, then it overrides the default one. So policy with the higher priority, which has the larger number, takes precedence over policy with a lower priority, which has the smaller number for the same audit activities. So here in our case, audit 3 has the highest priority and it is for site renaming performed by the user 1. But user 1 is not assigned a 10-year audit logs retention, that add-on license and such things. So audit 3 is ineffective. Now audit 2 has the next highest priority and it is for site renaming and such activities. So the audit log for user 1 renaming for the SharePoint online site is retained forward as per the second audit rule, which is 90 days. So the right answer is going to be 90 days. That's the reference from the Microsoft that you can explore, and the right answer is going to be 90 days. Let's see question number 32, where it says you have an organization uses Microsoft 365 Copilot and other Microsoft AI tool to enhance productivity. And there are concerns about sensitivity data being shared through these tools. You need to identify and take action on user behaviors that might expose sensitive data. What should you do? Apply a DLP policy to limit external sharing, conduct user training on sensitive data handling, disable all Microsoft AI tools, or create risky AI uses inside a risk policy in Microsoft Purview. So to proactively identify and take action on user behaviors that might expose sensitive data through Microsoft 365 Copilot and other AI tool, we should create risky AI uses inside a risk policy. We are getting this option in Microsoft Purview. Why? So risky AI user policy template in Microsoft Purview inside risk management includes a specific policy template designed to detect and alert on activities involving by AI tools, and they may lead to data exposure. This policy basically monitors interaction with the Copilot and any other AI services. It also checks potential sharing of sensitive data prompts of or responses and anomalous data access pattern linked to AI uses. This also allows you to investigate and remediate risks. The other tool, which is less effective, like if I talk about applying DLP policy to limit external sharing. So the DLP can prevent data exfiltration. It is not specifically tailored to detect risky AI uses. It's not going to detect those patterns which is being used by the AIs. If I talk about conduct a user training on sensitive data handling, this is a good practice but does not effectively monitor or enforce controls against data exposure via AI tools. And disabling all Microsoft AI tools, that doesn't make sense. This is overly restrictive and undermines productivity benefits, right? So it is not the targeted solution. So the right answer is going to be what? Create a risky AI uses inside the risk policy in Microsoft Purview. If I go and explore the Microsoft reference, it also clearly says disabling all Microsoft AI tool prevent this is which does not align with the goal of monitoring and maintaining risk while maintaining productivity. That is correct. So yeah, if you read this, there also you will find creating this AI uses inside a risk policy will help you to meet the goal. So just explore these references from the Microsoft side, you will get that right answer. And the right answer, as per our logic, is going to be this. Okay, let's explore question number 33, where it says your company uses Microsoft Purview Data Security Posture Management for AI to manage sensitive data interactions with AI applications. You need to configure Data Security Posture Management DSPM policy to monitor and detect sensitive information during Microsoft 365 Copilot interactions. And each correct answer presents part of the solution. Which two actions should you take? Choose two. So, to configure Microsoft Purview Data Security Posture Management for AI to monitor and detect sensitive information during Microsoft 365 Copilot interaction, we should use activate the capture interactions for Copilot policy. And we need to enable the content capture in the collection policy. That's two seems correct. But let's understand why these two are going to be correct. So if I talk about this activate the capture interaction for Copilot policy, this specific policy in DSPM means Data Security Posture Management for AI is designed to capture and analyze interactions with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And it allows you to monitor prompts and responses for sensitive information, ensuring that data shared with Copilot is compliant with your organization's security policy or not. And the second option, which enable content capture in the collection policy, content capture must be enabled to collect the actual data from Copilot interactions. This ensures the detailed context, like full prompts and responses, is available for analysis, even detection, or even for auditing of all your sensitive information exposures. Let's talk about why others are not correct. So the other, if I can see, assign administrative unit to DSPM policy. Administrative unit are used for delegating administrative permission and enter ID, not for configuring DSPM policy for AI monitoring. And use double key encryption. This is an encryption method for protecting data at rest, not for monitoring AI interaction in real time. So the right answer is going to be what? This two, activate the capture interactions for Copilot policy and enable content capture in the collection policy. This is the Microsoft reference. I took it from Microsoft documents. So if you'll go through it, you will find the same, whatever we just discussed. So the right answer is this. Let's explore question number 34. Your organization uses Microsoft 365 Copilot and other Microsoft AI tools for document summarization and data analysis. Concerns have arisen about sensitive information being shared with the third-party AI applications. You need to monitor and restrict sensitive information from being entered into third-party AI tools through web browser. Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Which two actions should you perform? Apply sensitivity labels, enable auditing for Copilot activities, install the Microsoft Purview browser extension, and onboard device to Microsoft Purview. I think the right answer should be install the Microsoft Purview browser extension and onboard device to the Microsoft Purview. But let's understand why I'm thinking this one. So the Microsoft Purview browser extension for supported browser, and when I say supported browser, it supports like Chrome and Edge, that enforces data loss prevention policy directly in the browser, and it can detect and block attempts to paste or type sensitive information into third-party AI tool websites. That's is something really interesting. And the second one is onboard device to Microsoft Purview. As I said, onboarding your Windows 10 or 11 to Microsoft Purview through Intune is required, where you can enable endpoint DLP policies. And this will allow DLP policy to monitor and control data transfer, including browser-based activities, and ensures the browser extension can function effectively. If I talk about the remaining other options like apply sensitivity labels or enable auditing for Copilot activities. So applying sensitivity label, this classify and protect data, but do not directly prevent input into third-party AI tools through browser. And enable auditing for Copilot activities. This only provides visibility into Microsoft 365 Copilot uses, not third-party AI tools. So the right answer should be install and onboard. Even if I'll explore the Microsoft document, that also says the same approach. If you will read it, there you will find the right answer is going to be install the Microsoft Purview browser extension and onboard the devices. Okay, question number 35. You have Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You plan to use the Microsoft Purview portal to implement data loss prevention policy named Policy 1 for Exchange email. You need to identify which type of object you can apply location exclusions for Policy 1. Which object type can be excluded from the policy? Accepted domain, distributed group, distribution groups, mailbox, or remote domains. It's very simple and straightforward. A distribution groups is the only object type that you can use to apply exchange email locations exclusion. And in because it is talking about Microsoft Purview, so this is only option we have. So the right answer is going to be what? Distribution group. Even if you'll go and explore the Microsoft reference document, you will find the right answer, and the answer is distribution group. Here, question number 36, where it says you have Microsoft 365 E5 subscription that contains the following users. We have admin 1, compliance administrator, admin 2, information protection, admin 3, security administrator. Which user can create and deploy data loss prevention policy? So it's very simple and straightforward. It's not, you can say, difficult. We just need to know which role has what right, what role can do what. So if I talk about admin 1 who is having compliance administrator, so this role has comprehensive permissions across Microsoft Purview, including the ability to create, modify, and you can say deploy the policies. It is one of the primary role for managing data loss prevention. And if I talk about admin 2, that is information protection. So even the information protection role, like as it sounds, information protection admin or similar, will grant the permission to manage DLP policies, sensitivity labels, and even other information protection features. So this role can create and deploy DLP policy as well. If I talk about admin 3, that admin 3 says security administrator, right? So the role has permissions to manage security policies, including your DLP policies. So while it is more focused on overall security, like Microsoft Defender, conditional access, and other, but along with that, it can also configure and manage the DLP settings as well. So now, as per the ask, because the ask is who can create the DLP, right? So I think all these three, as we discussed, the compliance administrator role can also have the right, information protection has also the right, security administrator has also the right. So all these three going to be the right answer. So if I read the Microsoft reference document, it says the account you use to create the DLP policy must be a member of one of this, like compliance administrator, information protection, data administrator, protection admins. Okay. So our answer is going to be admin 1, admin 2, and admin 3. All these admin can create it. Let's explore question number 37, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You plan to create a custom keyword dictionary. What should you create first in the Microsoft Purview portal? A content search, a sensitive information type, an e-discovery premium case, or e-discovery standard case? So to create custom keyword dictionary in the Microsoft Purview portal, you must first create a sensitive information type. That should be the right answer. Because a custom keyword dictionary is a list of terms like product name, project code, that you want to detect as sensitive information. And this dictionary is not a standalone. It must be associated with the custom sensitive information type. So I'll not go to the steps how we are going to create this. If you remember and just try to recall the points, you will easily relate it. If I talk about other points, like there is a content search. That content search used to search for the content across location, but does not involve creating sensitive information, right? If I talk about e-discovery premium used for legal investigation and advanced e-discovery, not for creating SITs. And e-discovery standard used for the basic e-discovery search, unrelated or to creating custom dictionaries or the SITs, right? So the right answer is going to be a sensitive information type, SIT. Let's see what Microsoft says. You can create a new keyword dictionary or accessing existing dictionary as a part of creating a new SIT. So the right answer is going to be a sensitive information type. Let's explore question number 38, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You plan to apply a data loss prevention policy named Policy 1 to the following locations. And that location is Microsoft Defender for Cloud App and on-premises repository. You need to identify the methods used to detect content to which the DLP policy will apply. Which method should you identify? Retention level policy, sensitive information type only, sensitive information type and retention label policies, sensitive information type and sensitivity label policy, sensitive information type, sensitivity label and retention labels, sensitivity label only. Okay, so for data loss prevention, policy apply to Microsoft Defender for cloud apps and on-premises repository. And the method used to detect content are what? Sensitive information type. Because the DLP policy can use built-in custom SIT to identify sensitive content based on the, you can say, patterns, right? And the sensitivity label, if I talk, the DLP policy can also detect content that has been classified with the sensitivity labels, like encrypt or the mark the content. However, the retention label are not used for the DLP detection. So retention labels are used for record management and lifecycle policies, like retaining for deleting content after a period. They do not classify sensitive or the trigger DLP actions. DLP policy cannot use retention label or conditions. So the right answer should be sensitive information type and sensitivity label only. Let's explore the Microsoft document. Reference document says Microsoft Defender for Cloud app supports three methods: SIT, sensitivity level, and retention level. That can be used to identify the content to which DLP policy will apply. On-premises repository support methods is SIT and sensitivity levels. So when a policy target to multiple location, only the method supported by both location will take in effect. And that's the reason you will have sensitivity information, sensitive information type and sensitivity label only. That's the correct answer. Let's explore question number 39, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription and the following types of devices: Windows 11, Android, and Mac OS. You plan to implement endpoint data loss prevention. Which device type can you onboard it to Microsoft Purview? Windows 11, Windows 11 and Mac, Windows 11 and Android, Windows 11 Android and Mac, and Windows 11 only. Okay, it's very simple and straightforward because the DLP or data loss prevention in Microsoft Purview supports onboarding for only Windows 11, Windows 10 and Mac operating system. Even for Mac operating system, not all the features are supported, but yes, Mac operating system is supported. Android is not supported. So it's very simple and straightforward. So if the Android is not supported, this is not going to be right answer. It supports Windows 11 Mac, as I said, this is not going to be the right answer. Windows 11 also not going to be right answer because we have Mac OS also in our ask. So we'll go with the second one, which is Windows 11 and Mac OS only. Even I'll go and explore the Microsoft document. Here it says if you want to onboard the devices, they're clearly Windows 10 and later and Mac operating system. So the right answer is this. Okay, question number 40, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You need to create a custom sensitive information type that will use exact data match based on data used by the human resource department. So what should you do first? Create a rule package or save sensitive information to CSV file, save sensitive information to JSON, or set up the EDM upload agent tool. So to create a custom sensitive information type using exact data match, the first step should be save the sensitive information to a CSV file. That should be the right answer because EDM requires a structured data source. And the sensitive data like employee records from HR must be formatted in a CSV file with specific columns like One column for employee ID, another for the name, designation, department, salary, so on. And this files serve us as the reference database for the matching. Then we can create the EDM, I would say the exact data match on the basis of those information which we have collected from there. So I think the right answer is going to be save the sensitive information CSV file. If I'll explore the Microsoft document, it says to create an EDM based SIT, you must first export sensitive information to a TSV or the CSV file. So as discussed, right answer is save sensitive information to CSV file. Let's explore 14.1. You have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription and you plan to implement endpoint data loss prevention. You create a DLP policy named DLP1 and you need to ensure that DLP1 is an endpoint DLP policy. To which location should you apply the DLP1? Devices, Exchange email, OneDrive accounts, or on-premises repository. So to ensure that data loss prevention to ensure that data loss prevention, you must apply it to the devices. Why? Because endpoint DLP extend DLP capabilities to endpoints like Windows 10, 11 or Mac operating system devices. So when you create a DLP policy and select devices as a location, it becomes an endpoint DLP policy. And then it will allow the policy to monitor and protect data on onboarded devices, like restrict copying sensitive files or USB drives, block printing, and such things. The other Exchange email, OneDrive, and on-premises repositories are not correct because Exchange email, this apply to the policy to email or Exchange Online. You can say OneDrive sounds like only OneDrive. And the on-prem repository, this applies the policy to an on-premises file shares and SharePoint servers, not the endpoint. So the right answer is going to be devices. Even the Microsoft reference document talks about that and it clearly says that will apply to the devices. So right answer, devices. Let's explore question number 42. Your organization has onboarded Windows 10 devices on a Microsoft Purview Endpoint DLP for data protection. You need to configure a policy to monitor sensitive data activities involving USB devices. What should you do? Advanced DLP rules, clipboard activity monitoring, conditional access policy, or copy to removable storage activity. So to monitor the sensitive data activities involving USB devices, which are a type of removable storage, on onboarded Windows 10 devices, you should configure the copy to removable storage activity in your endpoint DLP policy. So that's going to be correct answer, but let's understand why. So in an endpoint DLP policy, you can define activities to monitor or restrict, for example, copy to removable storage. And this includes USB drives, external hard drives, or you can say other removable media. You can set conditions like when sensitive content is detected and action also. Either you can audit or block or allow with justification for such activities. And this directly address the requirements to monitor USB related data transfer. If I talk about other options like DLP rules, clipboard activity monitoring, conditional access. So DLP rule, not a specific activity, it refers to you can say complex conditions in DLP policy. But the core activity for USB monitoring is copy to removable storage. Clipboard activity monitoring, this tracks copying data to the clipboard like copy paste, not specifically to USB devices. And advanced DLP rule, the conditional access policies, this controls access to application and resources based on condition, but not monitor USB data transfer. So the right answer is going to be copy to removable storage activity. And even I'll explore Microsoft reference document. There also you will find copy to removable storage activity in the policy ensures USB device activities are monitored effectively. So the right answer is going to be this. Now let's explore question number 43, where it says your organization uses Microsoft Purview data loss prevention policy that protects sensitive information on devices, including USB devices, drives. So you need to ensure a policy that blocks users from copying sensitive data to USB drives, but allow them to proceed if they provide a business justification. What should you do? So use allow or copy to removable devices. use audit only for copy to removal devices, use block with the override for copy or removal devices, or use block for the copy removal device. So you just need to be logical to answer this question. To block users from copying sensitive data to USB drive while allowing them to proceed with the business justification, you should configure the endpoint DLP policy to use block with override for the copy to removable device. So block with override, what it does basically, the action blocks the activity by default, but provides user with an option to override the block by providing a business justification where the user will get a prompt. I mean, the box, they can provide the clear justification and then they can start accessing it. As per this particular question, the answer is going to be use block with override for copy to removable device. Let's explore the Microsoft reference, and even this reference document refers that you can go with this option where you can provide the justification. So the right answer is block with override for a copy to removable device. Let's explore question number 44 where it says you have implemented Microsoft Purview Endpoint DLP to monitor and enforce data protection policy on devices. You need to configure the system to exclude a specific file path from being monitored or enforced by DLP policies. Which configuration should you apply to meet this requirement? Add the file path to a new endpoint DLP policy, configure file path exclusions in endpoint settings, turn off DLP monitoring for devices with the specified file path, and use advanced classification setting to exclude file path. So to exclude a specific file path from being monitored or enforced by an endpoint DLP policy, you must configure the path exclusion in the endpoint setting. In the Microsoft Purview, you have this option. So I think the right answer should be configure the file path exclusion in endpoint settings. Because in DLP settings, there is a specific section for file path exclusion. And here you can list full path or wildcard path that should be excluded from your DLP scanning and enforcement. If I'll explore the Microsoft reference document, here it also says, hey, adding file path to a new endpoint DLP policy does not exclude them from monitoring or enforcement, but instead define conditions for applying policy complications, which does not meet the requirement. Turning off DLP monitoring device, broad impact for monitoring on the devices. So failing to target a specific path exclusion for endpoint setting is the correct. So configure file path extension. Even the Microsoft reference document says the same thing. So yeah, the right answer is going to be what? Configure file path exclusion in endpoint settings. Let's explore question number 45 where it says your organization has onboarded Windows 10 and Windows 11 devices into Microsoft Purview endpoint data loss prevention. The security team has identified untrusted cloud service domain as a risk for sensitive data uploads. You need to configure Microsoft Purview endpoint DLP setting to manage sensitive data uploads based on domain trust levels. Which three actions should you perform to achieve the configuration? Choose three. Add a trust domain to the service domain list. Block all domain in the service domain. Configure the policy to treat unlisted domain as a untrusted. Okay. Disable endpoint DLP setting for untrusted domain. Enable advanced scanning feature and set device activity enforcement. Okay, now let's understand one by one. If I talk about add trusted domain to the service domain list, so in the endpoint DLP setting, you can define a list of trusted cloud services domains like sharepoint.com, onedrive.com, contoso.com, or any. And then uploads to these domains will be allowed or handled based on the policy rules. The second, block all domain in the sense service domain list. That I don't think is logical in this case because this would block trusted domain, which is counterproductive. That's not, I'm thinking it's going to be right one. The third one that I can see, configure the policy to treat unlisted domains as untrusted. This setting ensured that any cloud domain not explicitly listed in the trusted domain list is considered untrusted, and this allow you to block or restrict uploads to unknown or risky cloud services. So this could be the correct one. So the first and this one so far is the correct. Now the next one, disable endpoint DLP setting for untrusted domain. So There is no such settings. Exclusions are for file path or not domains, right? So that I don't think is going to be there. Enable advanced scanning feature. This is for deeper content inspection, but does not directly manage domain trust. And the last one, set device actively enforcement to block with override in the endpoint DLP policy. So, in your endpoint DLP policy, for the activity copy to network share or upload to cloud services, set the action to block with the override. So, for untrusted domain, this blocks upload by default, but allow user to override when the business justification or you can say legitimate needs. So, I think that three are going to be the right one. Add trusted one, configure the policy, and then the set device. So let's see what Microsoft says about that. This is the reference. I took it from the Microsoft side, and it says to configure Microsoft Purview endpoint DLP settings, enforcement block override DLP policy, the balance and risky domain, untrusted domain. So this reference also says that point. If you read it, you will get to know. Add trusted domains to the service domain list. As we discussed, configure the policy to treat unlisted domain as trusted. And the third one, set the device activity. That's going to be right one. Now let's explore question number 46. An organization has implemented Microsoft Purview DLP to monitor and restrict sensitive data activity on device. You need to block users from uploading sensitive files to unapproved cloud services domain, which is allowing upload to approved domains. Which two actions should you perform? And its correct answer presents part of the solution. Oh, similar to the previous one. So to block users from uploading sensitive file to unapproved cloud services domain while allowing upload to approved domains, right? We should think about add trusted domain to the service domain list and configure DLP policy to treat unlisted domain as untrusted. That's very straightforward. Let's understand. Add trusted domain to the service domain list. In the endpoint DLP setting, you can define a list of trusted cloud services or domains. And then you can upload these domains will allowed based on your DLP policy rules. And then the configure DLP policy treat unlisted domain as untrusted. So this setting ensures that any cloud domain not explicitly listed in the trusted domain list is considered untrusted. So in your DLP policy, you can then block or restrict uploads to this unlisted or untrusted domains. So that's the two things that we can consider. So I think the right answer should be this two. So this is the Microsoft reference, and that also talks about the same point. And the answer is going to be add trusted domain to the service domain list and configure DLP policies to treat unlisted domain as trusted. Now let's explore question number 47, where it says you have Microsoft 365 E5 subscription and you plan to use Microsoft Purview to manage the retention of Microsoft Exchange Online emails for your company. You are considering using retention labels and retention policies. So you need to identify which task requires the use of a retention policy. Which task should you identify? Applying a default label to a single Exchange Online email message, applying default label to an Exchange Online mailbox, archiving emails to an archive mailbox, and triggering an disposition review at the end of the retention period. So the retention policy and retention label serves different purpose in Microsoft Purview. If I talk about retention policy, are used to apply retention setting broadly to locations like entire Exchange Online mailboxes or SharePoint sites or OneDrive documents. So apply a default retention label to all items in a location like emails or mailboxes. It will retain or delete content based on the policy setting without requiring user intervention. If I talk about retention labels that are used for granular retention settings, and they can be applied manually to individual items. So for the task listed, applying a default label to a single Exchange Online mailboxes, this is done with a retention label manually or auto, you can say applied. Applying a default label to an Exchange Online mailbox, this requires a retention policy, and you create a retention policy that targets the mailbox's location and assign a default retention label to all items. Archiving emails to an archive mailbox. This is handled by the Exchange online archiving policy, not retention policy or labels. And triggering a disposition review at the end of this retention period. This is a feature of retention label, not policy, when the retention period ends. So I think the right answer is going to be applying a default label to an Exchange online mailbox for this question. Even I explored this Microsoft document, so it says Exchange mailbox, you must retention apply this retention policy. So that's the right answer. Now let's explore question number 48, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription and you need to apply a retention policy to the following locations: Exchange mailbox, SharePoint Classic and communication sites, Microsoft 365 group mailboxes and sites, team channel masses, Teams private channel masses. What is the minimum number of retention policy that you should create? Okay, so if a retention policy to the Teams channel masses is the same policy can apply to Teams chat also. So if a retention policy apply to the team private channel masses, the same policy cannot apply to any other location. So the same retention policy can apply to Exchange mailbox, SharePoint Classic and communication site and Microsoft 365 group mailbox and sites as well. So you must create at least 3 retention policy. So that's a reference that you can explore from the Microsoft, and the right answer as per this is going to be 3. Let's explore question number 49, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. You need to apply preservation lock to a Microsoft Purview retention policy. What should you do? From the Microsoft Purview portal, create a e-discovery case, or Purview portal modify the retention policy, or security and compliance PowerShell run set retention compliance policy, or from security and compliance PowerShell set retention policy tab. To apply preservation lock to a Microsoft Purview retention policy, you must use PowerShell. Why? Because this is the feature that locks a retention policy to prevent anyone, including administrators, so from running off the policy, deleting it, or making it less restrictive. This is often used for regulatory or the legal compliance. And the lock can only be applied during the creation of the policy or after creation via PowerShell. So once locked, you cannot be undone. So in Microsoft Purview portal, you can create and modify a retention policy, but you cannot apply the preservation lock through the user interface. And this must be done using the PowerShell. So the correct CM delete set retention policy, retention compliance policy. That is the right command. So the right answer should be set retention policy. Even if we'll go and explore this Microsoft document that clearly says set retention compliance policy is the CM delete. So that's the right answer. The question number 50, where it says you have a Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. Company data is stored in the following Microsoft 365 location, like Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and Microsoft OneDrive. For which location can you prevent users from deleting items that have a retention label applied? Exchange Online and SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, Exchange Online, SharePoint and OneDrive, SharePoint Online and OneDrive, and SharePoint Online. So in the Microsoft Purview, as we know, you can configure the records management settings, which includes deleting content labeled for retention. And in this setting, you can disable options to allow users to delete items from OneDrive and on SharePoint sites. After you configure those options, users are not allowed to delete items from SharePoint sites and OneDrive that have been retention label applied. So you can configure this option only for SharePoint and OneDrive. You cannot configure it for any other Microsoft 365 workload, Exchange Online or any other. So the right answer is going to be what? SharePoint and OneDrive. Let's see what Microsoft says. That's the link. You can go and explore that reference from the Microsoft, and the right answer is going to be SharePoint Online and OneDrive. Okay, so I hope you got an idea what kind of question you can expect for this particular exam, and also it will help you to increase the knowledge about information protection. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in next.